In the heart of Houston, nestled within a tranquil neighborhood, the night of May 18th, 2010, unfolded like any other. The air was thick with the warmth of a Texan spring, and the streets lay silent under the dim glow of streetlights. Families settled into their nightly routines, unaware that the serenity of their community was about to be irrevocably shattered. At precisely 10:20 p.m., the Harris County Emergency Dispatch received a frantic call. The voice on the other end belonged to Pastor Tracy Burleson, a figure well known and respected within the local community. His words were laced with panic and despair. "My wife, she's been shot." First responders raced to the scene, a modest home located on Greenlock Lane in northeast Harris County. Upon arrival, their eyes were met with a harrowing sight. Lying motionless in the driveway was 56-year-old Pauletta Burleson. The lifeless body bore the unmistakable marks of a fatal gunshot wound. The scene was grim, a stark contrast to the peaceful suburban backdrop. Pastor Burleson, visibly shaken, recounted the events of the evening to the authorities. He admitted that an argument had erupted between him and Pauletta earlier that night. Seeking solace and a brief respite from the tension, he claimed to have left the house to purchase snacks from a nearby store. Upon his return, he was met with the horrifying discovery of his wife's lifeless body sprawled across the driveway. Initially, the narrative seemed to suggest a robbery gone awry. The area, while generally peaceful, was not entirely immune to sporadic criminal activities. However, as investigators began to meticulously comb through the details, subtle inconsistencies started to emerge, casting doubt on the initial theory. The neighborhood, known for its close-knit community, had no recent reports of violent crimes. The Burleson residents showed no signs of forced entry, struggle, or theft. Valuables remained untouched, and there was an eerie absence of evidence pointing towards an external assailant. The notion of a random act of violence began to lose its footing. Delving deeper into the timeline provided by Pastor Burleson, detectives found discrepancies that raised red flags. Surveillance footage from local establishments failed to corroborate his account of visiting the store during the specified time frame. Moreover, neighbors did not recall seeing his vehicle leave or return during the critical window. As the investigation progressed, a more complex portrait of the Burleson household began to surface. Friends and acquaintances of Pauletta came forward, revealing that she had confided in them about escalating marital discord. She had expressed feelings of unease and had alluded to concerns about her personal safety. The facade of a harmonious marriage was crumbling under scrutiny. Financial records indicated that Pastor Burleson had recently taken out a substantial life insurance policy on his wife. Additionally, whispers of extramarital affairs began to circulate, further muddying the waters. The initial image of a devoted pastor and his loving wife was now overshadowed by a web of secrets, lies, and potential motives. The question loomed large. Was this a tragic yet random act of violence, or was there a more calculated and nefarious plot at play? As the layers of this case began to peel away, the true nature of the relationships within the Burleson family and the events leading up to that fateful night demanded a closer, more critical examination. The journey to uncover the truth was just beginning, promising revelations that would send shockwaves through the community and beyond. To understand the tragedy that unfolded on that fateful night, we must delve into the lives of those at its center: a pastor, his son, and a woman whose presence would intertwine their destinies. Tracy Bernard T.B. Burleson was a man of the cloth, leading the First New Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Houston's 5th Ward. To his congregation, he was a beacon of faith and guidance. But behind the pulpit, Tracy's life was marred by personal demons. Born and raised in Houston, Tracy's early life remains shrouded in mystery. As he matured, he embraced the church, eventually ascending to the role of pastor. However, his journey was not without turbulence. Financial instability plagued him, leading to mounting debts and desperate decisions. In his personal life, Tracy's relationships were fraught with infidelity. He had been married multiple times, each union ending amidst allegations of unfaithfulness. His marriage to Pauletta was no exception. In the months leading up to her death, Tracy secured a $60,000 life insurance policy on Pauletta. To some, it was a prudent financial move. To others, a potential motive. William Darnell Fuller, Tracy's son from a previous relationship with Sharon Fuller, was a young man burdened by adversity. At 22, he battled sickle cell anemia, a condition that left him in constant pain and frequent hospital visits. His relationship with his stepmother, Pauletta, was strained. Reports suggest that Pauletta was abusive towards William, exacerbating the tension in their household. Seeking solace, William found himself entangled in a relationship with Tyonne Palmer, a connection that would later prove pivotal. Tyonne Palmer was a woman whose life became intricately linked with both Tracy and William. Described as charismatic and persuasive, she formed intimate relationships with both father and son. Her involvement with Tracy began as an affair, a secret liaison hidden from the congregation. Simultaneously, she grew close to William, offering him comfort and companionship. On the night of Pauletta's murder, Tyonne's actions would place her at the heart of the ensuing investigation. She allegedly assisted William in cleaning up after the crime and disposing of the murder weapon, binding her fate to theirs. As we unravel the complex relationships between these three individuals, we begin to see the fissures that led to a devastating act. The convergence of desperation, betrayal, and manipulation set the stage for a tragedy that would forever alter their lives. As detectives delved deeper into the tragic death of Pauletta Burleson, the initial narrative of a random act of violence began to unravel, revealing inconsistencies that cast doubt on Pastor Tracy Burleson's account. In the immediate aftermath of the murder, Pastor Burleson recounted to investigators that following an argument with his wife, he had left their home to purchase snacks from a nearby store. Upon his return, he claimed to have discovered Pauletta's lifeless body in the driveway. However, as detectives scrutinized his alibi, discrepancies emerged. Surveillance footage from local establishments failed to corroborate his presence during the time he alleged to be away. Additionally, neighbors did not recall observing his vehicle departing or returning during the critical time frame. These inconsistencies prompted investigators to probe deeper into the pastor's personal life. The investigation took a pivotal turn when attention shifted to William Fuller, Tracy's 22-year-old son from a previous relationship. Known to have a tumultuous relationship with his stepmother, William was brought in for questioning. Under the weight of interrogation, he made a startling confession. He admitted to being the one who pulled the trigger, ending Pauletta's life. But the revelation did not end there. William alleged that his father, Pastor Tracy Burleson, had orchestrated the murder, promising him financial compensation and support in return. He claimed that his father had offered him $3,000 from the impending life insurance payout to commit the heinous act. William's confession painted a grim picture of manipulation and betrayal. He described how his father had coerced him into committing the murder, leveraging their strained relationship and William's vulnerable state. The promise of financial gain, coupled with the prospect of alleviating his father's burdens, compelled William to act against his stepmother. This confession not only implicated Pastor Burleson in the crime, but also introduced a narrative of a calculated plot driven by financial desperation and familial discord. As the investigation progressed, the facade of a grieving husband began to crumble, revealing a complex web of deceit, manipulation, and betrayal. The authorities were now faced with unraveling the extent of each individual's involvement and the true motive behind Pauletta Burleson's tragic death. As investigators peeled back the layers of this tragic case, a confluence of financial desperation, illicit relationships, and familial discord emerged, painting a complex picture of the motives that may have driven Pastor Tracy Burleson to orchestrate his wife's murder. Financial strain loomed large over Pastor Burleson's life. Despite his position within the church, he faced mounting debts and economic hardship. In a bid to alleviate his financial woes, Tracy had taken out a $60,000 life insurance policy on his wife, Pauletta. This policy named him as the sole beneficiary, presenting a potential lifeline amidst his fiscal troubles. The prospect of this payout provided a compelling, albeit sinister, incentive. The dynamics within the Burleson household were further complicated by a tangled web of relationships. Both Tracy and his son, William Fuller, were romantically involved with the same woman, Tyonne Palmer. Tracy's affair with Tyonne was a betrayal of his marital vows, but the situation was exacerbated by Tyonne's simultaneous relationship with William. This overlapping affection not only strained the father-son relationship, but also introduced a volatile element into an already fraught family dynamic. Marital discord between Tracy and Pauletta was well documented. Their relationship had been marred by frequent arguments and mutual accusations. The possibility of divorce loomed over them, threatening to further destabilize Tracy's personal and financial standing. The dissolution of their marriage could have led to financial losses and public embarrassment. Outcomes Tracy was desperate to avoid. Moreover, questions arose regarding Tracy's past relationships. His history was punctuated by allegations of infidelity and betrayal. While details about William's biological mother remain sparse, the pattern of Tracy's behavior suggested a man accustomed to discarding relationships when they no longer served his interests. Collectively, these factors, financial desperation, a convoluted love triangle, and deteriorating personal relationships, converged to create a motive for murder. The promise of financial gain, coupled with the elimination of personal obstacles, painted a grim rationale for why a father might compel his own son to commit such a heinous act. In the fall of 2011, the Harris County courtroom became the stage for a trial that captivated Houston. A tale of betrayal, manipulation, and murder within a family bound by blood and broken by deceit. Taking the stand against his father, William Fuller, then 21, delivered a testimony that would send shockwaves through the courtroom. He recounted in harrowing detail how Pastor Tracy Burleson had coerced him into murdering his stepmother, Pauletta Burleson. William described the promise of $3,000 from the life insurance payout as the incentive his father offered for the heinous act. He further testified that after the murder, Tyonne Palmer, his father's mistress, who was also romantically involved with William, assisted him in disposing of the murder weapon, thereby tampering with crucial evidence. Pastor Tracy Burleson's defense team staunchly refuted the allegations. They portrayed William as a troubled young man, suggesting that his confession was a desperate attempt to mitigate his own culpability. The defense argued that William, possibly influenced by external pressures or his own internal conflicts, had fabricated the story to implicate his father and avoid a harsher sentence. Tracy Burleson himself took the stand, vehemently denying any involvement in his wife's murder and expressing profound grief over her death. After deliberations, the jury rendered a verdict that resonated throughout the community. Pastor Tracy Burleson was found guilty of capital murder and subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. William Fuller, having entered a guilty plea and cooperated with the prosecution, received a 20-year prison sentence for his role in the crime. Tyonne Palmer was also convicted, found guilty of murder and tampering with evidence, underscoring her involvement in the tragic events. The trial's conclusion marked the end of a harrowing chapter, leaving lingering questions about the depths of human manipulation and the fragility of familial bonds. The courtroom verdicts brought legal closure, but the reverberations of the Burleson case continue to provoke reflection on themes of trust, betrayal, and the vulnerabilities within institutions of faith. Despite the convictions, questions persist about the true dynamics of the crime. Was Pastor Tracy Burleson the unequivocal mastermind, or did William Fuller act independently, driven by personal motives? The complex web of relationships, particularly the shared involvement with Tyonne Palmer, adds layers of ambiguity. Some speculate that Palmer's role may have been more central than acknowledged, potentially manipulating both father and son to her advantage. The case starkly illuminates the destructive power of greed and betrayal within a family unit. The promise of financial gain from the life insurance policy, coupled with personal vendettas and fractured relationships, culminated in a tragic breach of familial trust. The involvement of a father orchestrating his wife's murder, allegedly through his own son, challenges the foundational expectations of family loyalty and protection. Beyond the personal tragedies, the Burleson case casts a shadow on religious institutions, highlighting the potential for moral failings among leaders entrusted with spiritual guidance. The juxtaposition of Pastor Burleson's public persona as a man of faith against his private actions underscores the vulnerability of congregations to the shortcomings of their leaders. It serves as a somber reminder of the necessity for accountability and transparency within religious circles. As the community grapples with the aftermath, the Burleson case remains a poignant example of how unchecked desires and broken trust can lead to irreversible consequences, leaving an indelible mark on all those affected. A man who preached salvation, a son who pulled the trigger, a woman who played both sides, and a wife whose life ended too soon. Who do you believe? As the dust settled on this tragic case, the verdicts were clear, but the questions never stopped. Was Pastor Tracy Burleson truly the manipulative mastermind, or was he a desperate man trapped in a web of lies? Did William Fuller take matters into his own hands, fueled by resentment toward his stepmother and the toxic rivalry with his father? And what about Tyonne Palmer, the woman who held power over both father and son? Was she a willing accomplice, or did she manipulate them both for her own survival? This case isn't just about a murder. It's about greed, deception, betrayal, and the darkest sides of human nature. A man of God, a son betrayed, a woman caught in the middle. Who do you believe? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Was justice truly served? And if you want more shocking true crime stories like this one, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's always another case, another mystery, and another story waiting to be uncovered.